Hello and welcome to video 3 of this mini video series with Dr. Nikki and me, Neil Cannon. Really happy you're here. I hope you found the first two videos really useful. One on nutrition and inflammation, and the next one was all about the environmental toxins, and this one is going to be about how our thoughts and our emotions have an effect on our biology, on our physiology.
So true. So there was this really interesting study that I learned about where they would test mice, poor little mice. They'd zap the mouse at the same time for the exact same duration, and they'd notice that the mouse's cortisol levels will go up. They'd have a spike, but then it will come back down naturally. And when the mice knew how long and when the shock would happen, they kind of had this peak and came back down to normal.
Can I just ask a question here? Can you explain what cortisol is?
Cortisol is your stress hormone, or right? It's a chemical that gets released when you're fearful.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they zap the mice for different times for different durations of time, what happened is their cortisol levels went up and stayed up. It didn't come back down to normal levels because the mice didn't know when it would happen or how long the pain would last. And so they ended up in this chronic cortisol level, chronic stress elevated state, correct?
Yeah.
And then what cortisol does in that elevated state is causes chronic inflammation.
Yeah. That's a very interesting study. Was that during your Harvard PhD?
During my PhD in holistic nutrition and health, yes.
Thought I'd throw that one in there.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about cortisol is in short bouts, it's really useful. We need it. And it can actually bring down inflammation. But when it's constantly elevated, that's when it leads to a chronic situation of chronic inflammation. So we need it, for example, for different processes, but it is the stress hormone as well as adrenaline.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Back to you.
So,
so just to summarize that, that's very interesting because it's all about anticipation, isn't it?
Right.
So if they knew when they were going to get shocked, and they knew when it was going to stop, it would drop back down again.
Yeah.
And if they had no idea, their anticipation was uncertainty.
Right.
They didn't know for how long it was going to be or when it was going to start. That's when it was constantly elevated.
Because they're in that constant state of fear.
Yeah. So if we can think about on our day-to-day basis, we humans living particularly on this kind of fast-paced world with hyper-distraction, constantly on high alert, it's almost like we're in a constant state of fight or flight, or freeze, or flee, whatever you want to call it. But it means that we tend to be living with elevated cortisol levels. It's like we're constantly on this fight or flight. And it's as if during this particular period, the blood actually drains from the gut into our limbs, so we are prepared to flee from a saber-toothed tiger, for example. And this is a very recent discovery in the last couple of years with Dr. Bruce Lipton, cellular biologist. But the human body is so clever, and it does whatever it's needed to do in a particular moment in time. Yeah. But when we go back to ancestral times, we needed this cortisol, we needed this adrenaline to get us out of trouble, to save us, to stay alive. So we tend to end up living in this state of fight or flight on a consistent level, and that actually triggers a different cascade of chemicals and hormones in the body, which are the opposite to healing.
It's true. So the term that I've learned is called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So if you've had some of these traumatic events during a childhood where maybe you had a parent that was a bit abusive or an alcoholic or just had anger management issues, and you didn't know when they were going to shock you, essentially. It's a shock when your parent goes into a state of anger. It's a shock, and if you didn't know how long it lasts, you end up in this chronic level of inflammation, chronic state of stress as a child, because you don't know when it's going to hit. And so that over the course of many years, decades, you end up with type 1 diabetes or some other ways where you're, the way it was explained to me is if you had a cup, let's say, of how much your body could tolerate before it breaks down, and you had a series of adverse childhood experiences, such as, again, an alcoholic parent or abandonment, or the list is
Yeah, it could be
well
anything.
known.
It
Could be anything.
It could be an argument with someone.
Yeah.
It could be something as small as that.
Yeah, any traumatic events for a child, it fills your cup up halfway so that the amount your body can tolerate is now just half a cup left. And if you add to that antibiotics use or alcohol use or mold in your house or, a variety of other toxins that we're going to share a lot more with you about in the program, your cup overflows and you break at the weakest point, which is your genetics, which is generally, well, for each person it's different, but for me it was diabetes, for example. For you it showed up as eczema. So your body will break at the weakest link. Does that make sense?
I think that's a brilliant explanation. Loved how you just did that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Yes. So, should we now talk about the
Yes.
storage of emotions? Because this is a big one.
Sure, please.
So, we now know that we've all heard of, we touched on trauma just now, without calling it trauma, but when something happens to us in history, if we're walking, talking, breathing human, we all have trauma to a degree. And it might be as basic as a small argument with someone, or it might be a teacher when you're at school, just something that's shocked you. And what often happens is that gets stored in the body, and there is physics behind this. This isn't woo-woo anymore. It actually gets stored as electromagnetic bundles of energy in your body. And it's often stored throughout our muscle fascia, which is like this casing, this kind of this kind of mesh over the whole body, and we can store this trauma over us. And it often gets stored in our psoas muscles, which is the top of your legs. And what we want to be doing is releasing this from the body. And there's a number of ways of doing this, but it's just worth raising attention to how this gets stored in the body. I interviewed a friend in 2016 who reversed her chronic pain. And she gave me this example of how trauma is stored in the body and how trauma can almost lay the foundations on which inflammation can build, and your body becomes more sensitive to different food types, for example, different toxins. So the trauma is like underlying it. So she was consuming, for example, a super anti-inflammatory diet, stuff that we've talked about already and we'll go more into. But she realized that her thoughts and her trapped emotions were making her suffer in a big way. So when she discovered the mind-body connection, that kind of triggered my interest in this, actually. And we now know that trauma gets stored as electromagnetic bundles of energy. So we can get rid of them. But there's an interesting point to make, that they can block the flow of electricity around the body. And we touched on this in the previous video with the mouth acting as circuit breakers, the teeth acting like circuit breakers, and all of the electrical systems going via our teeth. So our teeth are integral to our health. And electrical systems, these trapped emotions, which can get stored as bundles of electromagnetic energy, can block the flow of electricity around the systems, which drops the voltage. And when you drop the voltage, you're dropping the frequency, you're dropping the electrical energy getting to various organs.
Interesting.
So I'm now of the opinion that every illness and every dis-ease is a result of either a trauma or for some form of major toxicity in the mouth.
Wow.
And of course, the other toxins we discussed, like food and stuff. But when we really go back and we kind of peel back the onion and peel back the layers, we can pretty much pinpoint why anyone can fall out of balance. I'd not planned on talking about this, but most forms of cancer, or really advanced diseases, will start with a trauma at some level.
Yeah.
And there might be some kind of toxicity in the mouth. So this is a major revelation, and it really helps to take our power back and understand what might be affecting the environment. There's one more thing I wanted to say about trauma and trapped emotions. When a dog or cat gets scared, maybe they're chased by another dog or cat, they shake it off.
Yeah.
Immediately they shake it off. Humans don't do that. We are...
Drink.
Smoke, drink, have some sugar, do something, distract yourself with something. And in our society, men are told not to cry.
Right.
Boys don't cry, and men don't cry. There is a slogan that says, "The body weeps the tears, the eyes never shed." So if we don't allow this out of the body, it gets stored. And when it gets stored, we're disrupting the electrical flow in the body, and you disrupt the electrical charge to the organs. And a symptom or a trait of all dis-ease is low voltage to an organ. So if we can reverse engineer why there's low voltage to that organ, which is possible now, we can then figure out why we have any symptom, virtually any symptom.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, referring back to the epigenetics, in less than 5% of the population, they are born with a defective gene. So that, again, in 95% of cases, that puts us into the driving seat, into a position of power to really take control of our health.
Yeah.
And it can be quite fun as well.
It is. It's actually, I mean, there's a part of it is challenging because you're digging deep into your childhood maybe, and you're finding some subconscious belief systems that were laid down initially to protect you so that you were surviving through whatever trauma you're going through, but later on in life they don't serve you anymore. So it's initially maybe a slightly painful experience to kind of dig deep, but then honestly it's the most relieving thing to then let go of some of these belief systems that really you can function without so much more healthy.
Yeah.
Right?
And just to that point, when you say dig deep, I think it's good to be aware, but we don't have to go and relive trauma, just so you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So there's a term in neuroscience that says nerve cells that fire together wire together. So the more that we talk about a traumatic event in, say, traditional talk therapy, it can end up being counterproductive because you end up solidifying that memory, the energy grows, and whatever you focus on expands.
I meant more to just bring awareness to where the initial maybe root experience that happened, and then you learn the techniques. We're going to teach some techniques in the program of how to reframe it and then and shift it so that it is to use to your advantage instead of to your health deficit.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just I wanted to make that point because some people don't like to kind of venture back and examine things, and we can release the energy without revisiting the event.
Yeah, no, you certainly don't have to relive the experience, but rather just understand it and be aware of what came from it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And where we often, in fact, I've done a lot of this work myself in the whole personal growth, personal development world, where you look at these limiting beliefs, you understand where they've come from, where a fearful mindset might come from, where a scarcity mindset might come from, and often everything comes back to fear of not being good enough and fear of not being loved. And some people don't even want to heal because they create some kind of an identity with whatever symptom. I'm doing this because it's just a symptom, dis-ease. When we disassociate from it and we go back into why we might be having these limiting beliefs, it empowers us and puts us back into the driving seat. That
is the key takeaway that we want you to get today, is that this program is all about getting you to a place of feeling empowered that you know what to eat, what toxins to get out of your environment, and what are the subconscious beliefs that have gotten you to where you are. So
that's huge.
The goal is to empower you. This program is all solutions based. And we are inviting you now to sign up for our 3-week program. It is 21 days to change your habits around these 3 categories. Of nutrition, environmental toxins, and mental thoughts.
Yes.
And shifting your mindset so that you can use this powerful brain you have to heal yourself instead of make yourself suck.
I just got goosebumps when you said that. Yeah, the mind-body connection, the power of belief is massive. Our belief can literally change our biology. There's something called the nocebo effect, which I'd like to talk about in the more kind of advanced program. We all know how the placebo effect works. It works in our favor when we think we're taking something and some kind of sugar pill, and we heal our own body through the power of belief. That's what happens with the placebo effect. It's very, very powerful. The nocebo effect is that in reverse. When someone in a position of authority can give you this kind of diagnosis, and because you believe them, that's enough for your power of belief in that trusted authority. I won't go into why I'm doing that. Can actually cause the body to shut down through belief alone.
Wow, powerful.
So we want to flip this and give you your power back so you understand how powerful the body is in healing itself. And by creating the right environment, which is why we've created this 3-week program. And as Dr. Nikki said, we're going to guide you through how to balance your body with nutrition, environmental toxins, and of course the thoughts and beliefs, feelings, emotions.
Yeah. So in terms of the actual program, you'll get sent some videos each day for the 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
And we're also offering a live Q&A once a week so that we can go over all of your questions that you may have accumulated throughout the week, so that we are 100% available for you to make sure you get yourself back to health. That is our goal. So that is huge. And for the price that we're listing at, to get 2 coaches, not just one, but 2 coaches that have been through it, personal journeys and tons of research and training to guide you. And results.
I've helped people reverse all kinds of illnesses, skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, acne, rosacea, IBS, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arthritis, gout, low testosterone in men, migraines, low-level depression, and even Parkinson's in one spectacular case that was a total fluke, helping someone reverse her type 2 diabetes holistically, the only way to reverse type 2 diabetes.
Good.
So I've got a lot of 4.5 years of helping people reverse things. Got Dr. Nikki with Harvard education, and we're a good team to help you along the way. So
yeah, so we're excited, and we have an amazing offer for you just today only. Is if you bring a friend, you are welcome to bring a friend for free.
And the amount we're going to ask for this 3-week program is just $149.
Super exciting. That's so affordable, obviously. It breaks down to $50 a week. That's $25 each if you bring a friend. That's nothing for the amount of... You're getting years, if not decades of knowledge and research that we've each conducted separately, and all of that combined for $149. It's brilliant. We're really excited to share this. We're providing so much value. I can't wait to meet you as well, virtually, and the live calls.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to being on this journey with you.
Absolutely. It's all about a journey. It's about enjoying the process, and we're here to support you along the way.
Awesome. We look forward to meeting you.
So hit the link below this video, where you'll find a buy now button, and get your friend involved now. That way you get accountability, and
good point.
you can even enjoy the process even more so.
So true. All right, we're going to make this fun and enjoyable, and we look forward to meeting you. Cheers.